Number 5 from the Chapter 4A review, and it says beta equals 330 degrees. Find the reference angle. So basically we want to get back to quadrant 1. So if you realize that we're over here somewhere, is around 330s over here. So we got to get to quadrant 1. So this is where I do 360 minus 330, and that equals 30 degrees. So my reference angle is 30 degrees. 101 says same thing. Find the reference angle. Okay, and so 30 degrees is right here. Sorry, let's sketch it. Okay, so this is negative theta equals negative 6 pi over 5. Okay, and so when I'm looking at this, I'm going to say, okay, first thing is I'm going to find something that's coterminal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2 pi. Okay. So this equals negative 6 over 5 plus 2 pi. Right, I want to get a common denominator for that. So that's negative 6 pi over 5 plus 10 pi over 5 equals 4 pi over 5. Okay? So that gives me a coterminal. That's not a reference angle, that's a coterminal angle. Okay? Just so I get it positive. Well, 4/5 is almost 1, so I'm in quadrant 2 right here. Okay? I'm somewhere over here, pretty close to pi. Well, the reference angle means get it back into quadrant 1. Okay? Get it into quadrant 1. So since I'm in quadrant 2 and I want to get to quadrant 1, I'm going to do 180 minus the angle. In this case, I'm doing it in radians, so it's pi minus 4 pi over 5. Get a common denominator. This would be 5 over 5. And so my reference angle is pi over 5. Okay? So coterminal means it ends in the same spot. A reference angle means it's in quadrant 1. Okay, 101, let's look at 103. 103 says, in the exercise, evaluate the sine, cosine, and tangent angle without using a calculator. Okay, so 240 degrees. Okay, so 240, so I'm going to go ahead and get this into its reference angle to help myself. So I'm in quadrant, this is 180 degrees, this is 270 degrees. So I'm in quadrant 3, so I know everything's negative. Sine and cosine are negative. My tangent will consequently be positive. So just keep that in mind that my x values and my y values are negative. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to get into quadrant 1, so I'm going to do 240 minus 180, trying to get to my reference angle. Okay, and that gives me 60 degrees. So the reference angle is 60. Okay, the reference angle is 60. Well, I know sine and cosines for 60. That's a half and root 3 over 2. Right? Root 3 over 2. So that tells me that my sine of 60 degrees is equal to the y value, so it's root 3 over 2. However, I'm really over here in quadrant 3, right? So it's negative and negative. That's just my reference angle, so it's negative there. Cosine of 60 is negative a half, and the tangent of 60 degrees would be equal to the sine over the cosine or the y over the x. So 3 over 2 all over negative 1/2. Well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. If I write this out, it's going to positive root 3, positive root 3. All right, looking at 107. 107 says same thing, but they're giving me negative 9 over 4 pi. So theta equals negative 9 over 4 pi. And they want the sine, cosine, and tangent. So same thing. I want to use a reference angle. So I'm going to go and add 2 pi. I'm going to do a coterminal angle first to get it within 1 unit, within the 2 pi. So I'll add 2 pi, so that's going to be 2 over 1, so 8 pi over 4. All right? And this gives me negative 4 pi over 4. Okay? So that gives me a coterminal angle. Okay? Well, that's a little bit weird because it's not it's not a positive one, so it throws some people off. So it's down pi over 4, down pi over 4. Okay. If I add a 2 pi just to kind of figure out what it is, it's 7 pi over 4. Okay, so that's negative pi over 4, or I could say 7. Excuse me. So we realize that the reference angle is pi over 4. Okay, so the sine of negative 9 pi over 4 is equal to root 2 over 2. I'm going to deal with the positive negatives here in a second. Okay, so I'm really down here in quadrant 4, and that's where the x's are positive and the y's are negative. So my sine value is negative and my cosine is positive. So consequently, my tangent is going to be negative 1. Because I'm going to divide this one by this one. It'll be negative 1. Positive divided by negative, or vice versa, is a negative. Okay. Jumping to number 113. Okay. So 113 says use a calculator to evaluate. Okay. So this one shouldn't be too bad. It says secant equals 12 pi over 3. Oh, sorry, over 5. Okay. Well, if you look at your calculators, you don't have a secant. You don't have a secant button on there, but we know that secant theta is equal to 1 over cosine theta, right? That's one of our trig identities. So what we can say here is, what we can say here is that this equals 1 over the cosine of 12 pi over 5. Okay. Well, now I'm going to enter this into my calculator. Okay. First thing I'm going to check for, see if I can get this out of the glare here a little bit, is I'm going to check my mode button and make sure that I am in radians, and I was not. You see I was in degrees right there? So I'm going to make sure I'm in radians. Okay, I'm going to do 1 divided by the cosine, and that was 12 pi, gotta find my pi button on here, divided by 5. Okay, and that gives me 3.2360. I think they wanted it rounded to 4 places, so it's a 6. I'm going to round that up to 3.2361.